let's say if you wanted advice, let's say if you wanted to get some advice now about an important life-altering decision that you wanted to make for yourself, would you go to a 13-year-old and say to them, look, this is the sort of thing that I want to do in my life. What do you reckon? No. I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. Today I'm going to be talking about making the decision to quit, and would you trust a 13-year-old to dictate your alcohol habits, right? Would you trust a 13-year-old to make the decision for you, you know? That's basically what I did in my life. I started drinking when I was 13 years of age, and that was the mind that sort of got me into it, right? Didn't drink much for those first few years, you know, every so often, because I was 13, you know, and I did have semi-responsible parents. They were responsible parents. They were good parents, both of them, really good. And I think they would have had something to say about my drinking all the time and stuff. But as soon as I turned 18 and stuff, and like nobody could stop me, no, then it was all out. The shit hit the fan. Lots of times, the vomit hit the street. Lots of times, you know. So, but it was all based on the decision of that 13-year-old to start drinking. And my life was based around that for over 30 years, and it was only when I was 46 that I finally managed to extricate myself from that decision-making process, right? I know it's not all as cut and dried as that, and it sounds sort of a bit weird, but that's basically what it was, you know. I started smoking when I was, Jesus, how old was I? When I had my first cigarette was me and a mate, and we stole a cigarette from his mother and went around the corner, and exact ages, I don't know, but I know where I was living. I can see the spot where we were smoking, and I must have been 7 or 8 at the most, 7. You know, not proper smoking, you know, putting it in my mouth and sort of pulling it out and blowing it out, you know, not inhaling it or anything. I see the first time that I inhaled a cigarette, and that was in Ireland, so that was maybe 13 or 14, but yeah, after that I was hooked. All throughout my teenage years I smoked properly, and I hid it from my father for a long time. I thought I'd hid it from my father for a long time. I remember my father coming around, we were playing football, and I was there smoking away, you know, going and seeing my dad, you know, and it was like, oh shit, and I had the cigarette behind my back. And my dad came over and said, you know, was talking to us, how are you doing and stuff, and there all the time I've got the cigarette behind my back. And what are you doing, and what's your plans for the day? Yeah, Dad, we're doing this, you know, no worries. And then, right, see you later. And just as he was going over to me, he sort of leant over to me, said into my ear, he says, I know you're smoking. You might as well smoke in front of me rather than doing it behind my back, you know. I'd rather not see you smoking, but you're doing it, so what can I do? And that was it. So I smoked in front of him from then on. And I always remember my dad saying that his father caught him smoking cigarettes, a cigarette. I think they'd gone out and they'd found cigarette butts in the street and rolled it up in newspaper of all things, you know. And I don't know if that was the time, that was another story probably, but anyway, his father caught him smoking cigarettes, and he forced him to smoke this big Cuban cigar in a cupboard underneath the stairs, and he wasn't allowed out of the cupboard until he'd smoked it all. And obviously by the time he got out of, God knows how he even got out of the cupboard, you know. And the smoke in there probably choked him half to death. But you know, it put him off for a while. But he was a smoker. At one stage my dad was smoking 80 cigarettes a day. I always remember as a kid, my dad would be driving. He was a travelling salesman when we were kids, and because we had such a large family, he used to take a couple of us along with him sometimes, you know, to sort of ease the burden on my mother. And I remember looking at him and seeing him with a constant cigarette stuck out of his mouth as we were driving along in the car. Now he stopped smoking. He had to, he got a tumour in the back of his head, and they said to him, "Yeah, we've got to take this out." And the doctor said to him that the cigarettes that you're smoking there, that the chances of this being a successful operation will be more successful if you stop smoking, right? So he said, "You've got 2 months before we're going to bring you in." So, and my father left the hospital then and never smoked another cigarette in his life. I think he smoked the odd cigar when he was drinking, but yeah, never smoked a cigarette again. Yeah, I'm off on a tangent one there, but look, my point is that, you know, I made the decision to stop smoke at an early age. I made the decision to start drinking at an early age when, you know, my judgment was definitely in question, you know. The judgment of any fucking young person, you know, is just, you know, like, there's the reason why there's laws against smoking and drinking before you're 18, you know, it's because your judgment's not there. The parts of your brain that are meant for judgment, the prefrontal cortex, this doesn't even fully develop until you're into your early 20s, 23, 24 years of age before it's fully developed. So it's no wonder when you see, you know, young fellas making bad judgments, young ones making bad judgments, girls and boys, you know, it's no wonder because they're you know, the judgment facilities are not fully developed. Anyway, but I'm saying is that how many decisions have I made in my life based on that original judgment to smoke cigarettes or to drink alcohol, and how many years, 30 years of my life were taken up because of that first judgment, because I started drinking first, you know. That's where my focus is going to be in the coming years, is to educate young people, to try and think of ways. I mean, I'm not anywhere near where I want to be, but I'm thinking all the time about ways I can do this, ways that I don't want to force anyone to do anything. I don't think that's the best way of doing this, but to educate people and to open people's eyes and to sort of make people, to get people to think in a different way about these things. You know, make judgments and make better judgments. But we are where we are now, right? We are based, you know, we're all sort of making this decision now. We're trying to get away from alcohol based on the judgments of the person who started drinking the alcohol, however many years ago that was. The younger version of ourselves, right? You know, same if you're overweight, you know, you're talking about the judgment of the person who carried on putting the food into your body, you know, the fatty food into your body. Same if you're a smoker. You're all the time smoking based on the judgment of the person who started. But your past is your past. You cannot do anything about your past, right? All you can do is make the choice now. You know, make the proper judgment now and live with that judgment. You don't have to live with the judgment of your past. You can change your mind. That's the beauty of being a human, is that, you know, you can change the person that you are to the person that you want to be by changing your mind right now, by changing the way you do things, you know, and fuck what anyone else is doing. It's nothing to do with them. If the rest of society is drinking alcohol and you find that it's not suiting you, then stop doing it, you know. And be the change that you want to see in the world. That's one of the videos that I've just done. You know, there's a certain learning curve to doing this. You know, you have to learn how to be without alcohol. You have to learn to change. You have to learn to think differently. You have to learn different patterns in your life. You have to learn different routines, but it's doable. It's very doable, and you only do it just bit by bit, you know. You know, the first thing is to stop doing the alcohol, and I guarantee you everything else will fall into place. When I first stopped drinking, you know, I didn't really know what I was going to do with myself. I didn't know what my next step was. I didn't know how I was going to deal with other people. I didn't know how I was going to live my life without drink. But I'm certainly glad that I pushed myself through, and I found out how to do those things, because you do find out you're a learning machine. Your brain is designed to learn new situations. If you force it into a position where it cannot get alcohol, where your body can't drink alcohol anymore, then you will learn to do without it. You will learn not to want alcohol anymore. It's all what you feed your mind. If you feed your mind that you're being deprived of alcohol, then that's where your whole attitude is going to spring from. That's where your core person is going to spring from. If you feed your mind that alcohol is a poison and you don't want it in your body anymore, and everything that you're doing now is based on the decisions and the judgment of a 13-year-old or whatever age you were when you started drinking alcohol in the first place, then that's where your core person that's the direction you're going to take yourself. So you have to get yourself in the proper frame of mind first, a positive frame of mind. Put up with the discomfort. Look, if you have any questions at all, leave a comment down below. Any suggestions, any stories at all, love to hear them. Come on over to the website and sign up for the newsletter. It's a free newsletter. You get there's a free course along with the newsletter. It's Hang Loose Without Booze. It's over 8 hours of video just to help you to relax and to find different things to fill the gaps. Find a much more positive direction to push yourself instead of the negativity of drinking alcohol. So until next time, stay safe, keep the alcohol out of your mouth, start making your own judgments and make the changes that you need to make now. Don't think that the decision that you made as a 13-year-old has to hold because of what, that you don't make yourself look stupid. 13-year-olds are all stupid in that context anyway, in relatively speaking terms. I'm sure every 13-year-old thinks that their judgment is as good, if not better, than any adult, but you and I both know that that's not the case. So anyway, yeah, keep the alcohol out of your mouth. Just change your mind now for the better. Make sure that you make the changes in your life and that you want to see in your life, and head in the right direction. I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. Onwards and upwards.